And joining us now to discuss that speech, which was given today in Polish Parliament by Radosław Sikorski, the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, is Marcin Zaborowski, Policy Director, Future of Security Program and Ukraine Support Council at Globsec. Good evening, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Good to have you.
Good evening. Good to see you.
So now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland today mentioned that there are two pillars when it comes to Poland's foreign policy, one being the European one, the other being the transatlantic one. Can you tell us what main strategies can we expect to see or which were mentioned today when it comes to both directions of Polish foreign policy?
Well, I think that the statement was kind of suggesting that, that the foreign policy can be balanced. You don't necessarily need to choose between your mommy and your daddy. You can get on with both parents pretty well. And having said that, that essentially means here that there is absolutely no reason why Poland would need to use good relationship with the United States to balance out the European Union. We can be good Europeans, but we also are committed to strong relationship with the United States, and these are mutually workable priorities.
Yeah, and interesting there, and I want to ask you about this because you mentioned now choosing between mother and father here. I know that was just maybe made in jest, but at the same time, I think one of the points that Mr. Sikorski pointed out was very much that he wanted Poland to also have a lead in this, very much saying, not just, and I'm quoting here from him, saying about those two pillars maintained independently of the decisions of American voters and European integration. So I'm just curious as how you assess it. Can Poland rise to that occasion that he foresees as really an equal partner? We've seen a huge shift in this region. Can Poland go on that level as we can see as it wants to through his speech?
Well, I think we have a good opportunity to do that. There is a recognition of Poland's constructive role in the EU. We now have good relationships with almost all of our neighbors. We also have strong relationship with the two leading EU powers, meaning Germany and France, who both of which want to work with Poland in the context of the Weimar Triangle. So there are a number of initiatives now within the triangle format directed towards Ukraine. For example, it's quite possible that the three foreign ministers of Poland, France, and Germany will travel together to Ukraine, not just representing their national capitals, but representing the triangle and the EU as such. We may even expect actually a joint triangle initiative in the United States with the three, maybe prime ministers, heads of states, if not foreign ministers, to come and meet the new administration after the January election. The Weimar Triangle is also talking now about a joint initiative towards Moldova and Georgia. So it's not just Ukraine, it's going beyond that. And it's clear for France and Germany that Poland is indispensable actor in this context because of this geopolitical location, because of the investment that Poland made in keeping up very strong and close relationship with Ukraine, and also because having a constructive pro-European government in power.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about, you mentioned close cooperation between Poland and Ukraine. Also today in that speech, Radosław Sikorski said that Warsaw is to play a role in rebuilding and reconstructing Ukraine. What do we know about that?
We already know that a number of Polish companies have expressed interest in taking part in the reconstruction of Ukraine. I think the number is in the region of 2,000 Polish companies which have interest in it, and it has been registered in Ukraine. One of the areas where Polish companies really want to take a lead is, for example, the construction sector, but also in making Ukraine more of a safe and secure place, for example, through the demining process. Ukraine is now really full of very dangerously placed mines which are hazardous to life, and you cannot really restart economic activity before you demine airfields, estates, streets, and so on. So if Poland and the other actors can help out with that, that would be a real contribution to bringing Ukraine back into a normal economic life cycle.
Mm-hmm. I'm also curious on one point here, because we heard a lot, obviously, as we mentioned already, more cooperation with Europe, rebuilding those pillars, with obviously Russia very much as the main adversary. Interesting quote, he said, "It is not we, the West, who should fear a clash with Putin, but the other way around." But one thing I'm curious about, Marcin, is the absence of the mention of China. What's your view on that?
Well, I think he did mention China.
Mm-hmm. But not in the sense as much as it was aimed at very much Russia, but I think it was a different type of message. Does that have any strategic bearing, as it wasn't as, let's say, front and center as Russia was?
Well, China was mentioned in the global part of the speech in very interesting context. So China was mentioned as an actor with which we share a commitment to international relations free of colonial impositions. And the minister brought forward the recollection of the fact that in 1956, the Chinese Communist Party opposed a Soviet intervention in Poland, which was obviously a nod towards the Chinese, and say, we appreciate that you helped us out once in the past, and we hope that you will see Russian role in Ukraine and in other parts of the former Soviet Union as an extension of colonialism, which naturally you should be opposing. So he's on one hand, he is being nice towards the Chinese, like bringing forward the things from the past which are well remembered as a positive development in Poland. On the other hand, he's kind of telling them, live by the principle that you preach. So if you preach decolonization, then you shouldn't be really supporting in economic, diplomatic, or any other way the Russian imposition on another country.
Mm-hmm. Just also an interesting one happened today as well. It was the timing of the speech, important because at the same time we had this speech by Mr. Sikorski in Warsaw, we also had President Macron speak as well, outlining his vision of Europe. On some of those things, perhaps on the same level. Maybe let's just run a quick roll of that speech of Mr. Macron and see to get your comment and how it fits in with Mr. Sikorski's. Let's roll that for you and our audience now.
We must continue our partnerships with other countries. Yes, that means building a Europe that can show that it is never the vassal of the United States of America, and that it knows how to speak to all the regions of the world, to the emerging countries, Africa, Latin America, and not just through trade agreements, but with real strategies of balanced, reciprocal partnerships. Of course, there is no defense without a defense industry. This is a matter of transforming the urgency of supporting Ukraine into long-term efforts. This is what we call the war economy, which we are pushing hard with Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu. The road is long because we have decades of underinvestment in our own production. And basically, the dividends of peace meant that Europeans produced and invested insufficiently. This has also created a very strong dependence on non-European industry. So, we must produce faster, we must produce more, and we must produce more in Europe.
So now President Macron has mentioned stronger European defenses, but also the need to produce European military equipment. How can Poland have an impact in this regard?
Well, Poland is buying a great deal of military equipment. Unfortunately, Poland buys almost all of its equipment outside of not just Poland itself, but outside of the EU. So the mass majority of Polish military procurement is in the United States, but now also in Korea. So we are kind of pioneering these ties with the Asian power in Poland. I mean, the average Europeans are not doing it yet. And that in no way really contributes to the strength of the European defense industry. So if Poland in the future could redirect its defense policy, its defense procurement policy towards actors in Europe and in Poland itself, that would be a real major contribution. Just this year alone, Polish defense budget is over 35 billion euro. So it's one of the biggest in Europe. It's bigger than Spain's defense budget, and it's equal with Italy's, with the population of, Italy has a population of 50-something million, and it's much bigger power than Poland itself. So we are a very real, defense investor, if I may say so.
Yeah, indeed. I think Poland, as you said, there rightly said, the 14th biggest global spender on defense. So a lot to contribute. So it's going to be interesting how these dynamics work out from that speech from Sikorski and the Emir, as you said, in Berlin, in Paris, and in Brussels. We'll conclude it there. Thank you so much for all that insight and analysis there. That was Marcin Zaborowski. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.